I rushed home with my heart pounding, clutching the small velvet box in my jacket pocket. Today marked 5 years since Kendra and I said, "I do," and I had spent 3 months saving for the perfect anniversary gift. The diamond earrings sparkled like tiny stars when I first saw them in the jewelry store window. Kendra had admired them every time we walked past downtown. I carefully hid the gift box in my bedroom dresser, behind old photographs and forgotten letters. My hands trembled with excitement as I imagined Kendra's face lighting up when she opened it. This anniversary needed to be special. We had been through rough patches lately, and I wanted to remind her why we fell in love. But when I opened the dresser drawer 2 hours before dinner, my blood turned to ice. The box was gone. Completely vanished. I tore through every drawer, every shelf, every possible hiding spot. Nothing. My 3 months of overtime shifts, my carefully planned surprise, my hope for rekindling our romance, all stolen. Looking for something, Patrick. I spun around to find Delia, my mother-in-law, standing in the doorway. Her lips curved into the smuggest smile I had ever seen. She leaned against the frame like she owned the place, which she practically did since moving in 6 months ago. "Some surprises aren't meant to be found," she whispered. The anniversary dinner felt like a funeral. Kendra had dressed beautifully in her red dress, the one that made her eyes sparkle. She kept glancing at me expectantly, waiting for the moment I would present her gift. But my hands remained empty, my pockets hollow. "So," Kendra said, twirling her pasta nervously, "what's the surprise this year?" I opened my mouth, but no words came. How could I explain that her mother had stolen our moment? That the woman sitting across from us, cutting her steak with surgical precision, had destroyed my plans? "Oh, sweetheart," Delia suddenly cooed, reaching into her purse. "Since Patrick seems to have forgotten, I brought you a little something." She placed a small wrapped box on the table. Kendra's eyes widened with confusion and disappointment. The gift was clearly hastily wrapped, but Kendra smiled politely and opened it. Inside sat a simple silver bracelet, nothing like the diamond earrings I had chosen. "Thank you, Mom," Kendra whispered, but her voice carried hurt. Delia's smile widened as she watched me squirm. A woman deserves to feel special on her anniversary. Later that night, Kendra confronted me in our bedroom. Her voice was quiet, but I heard the pain underneath. "Why didn't you get me anything, Patrick?" I cornered Delia in the kitchen the next morning while Kendra showered. My hands shook with anger as I faced the woman who had destroyed my anniversary. "Where is it?" I demanded, keeping my voice low. "Where's the gift I bought for Kendra?" Delia's eyebrows shot up in mock surprise. She stirred her coffee slowly, deliberately making me wait. "Gift? What gift, dear? I don't know what you're talking about." "The jewelry box. You took it from my dresser yesterday." She laughed, a cold sound that made my skin crawl. "Patrick, honey, you must be confused. Maybe you forgot to buy something and you're imagining things now. Guilt does funny things to the mind. I know you took it." "That's a serious accusation." Delia's voice turned icy. "Are you calling me a thief? Maybe Kendra deserves a more thoughtful husband. One who actually remembers important occasions." I wanted to scream, to shake the truth from her lying mouth. Instead, I walked away before I said something I would regret. But as I passed the kitchen trash can, something caught my eye. A scrap of blue wrapping paper peeked out from under coffee grounds and banana peels. The same blue paper I had used to wrap Kendra's earrings. I tried explaining everything to Kendra that evening. We sat on our bed while I laid out the facts: the missing gift, Delia's suspicious behavior, the wrapping paper in the trash. Kendra listened quietly, her face growing more troubled with each word. "She's manipulating us," I said, taking Kendra's hands. "Your mother stole our anniversary so she could play the hero." Before Kendra could respond, Delia appeared in our doorway. Tears streamed down her cheeks, and her shoulders shook with exaggerated sobs. "I can't believe you're trying to turn my daughter against me," she wailed. "After everything I've done for this family. I've been nothing but supportive since moving in." Kendra immediately rushed to comfort her mother. "Mom, what's wrong? Patrick is accusing me of stealing from you. He's making up stories because he forgot your anniversary and can't admit it." I watched helplessly as Delia painted herself as the victim. Her tears looked real, her voice quavered with perfect timing. She was a master manipulator, and Kendra fell for every word. "Patrick," Kendra said softly, "maybe you should apologize." That night, lying in bed while Kendra slept, I made a silent promise to myself and to my marriage. Delia thought she had won this battle, but she had no idea what kind of war she had just started. She wouldn't win this war. Sleep escaped me that night. I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing with possibilities. Delia had stolen from me, lied to my wife, and poisoned my marriage. Traditional approaches wouldn't work with someone so manipulative. I needed a different strategy. I crept downstairs to my home office and pulled out a notebook. In the pale glow of my desk lamp, I began sketching plans. If Delia loved stealing gifts, I would give her something special to steal. Something that would expose her true nature to Kendra and everyone else. The plan took shape slowly. A beautiful box that would tempt her greed. Hidden cameras to document her theft. Evidence that even Kendra couldn't deny. I called it my revenge box, a trap designed specifically for a gift thief. Delia thought she was clever, but she had underestimated me. I wasn't just some pushover husband she could manipulate. I was an electrical engineer who understood surveillance systems, someone who solved complex problems for a living. As I refined the details, excitement replaced my anger. This wouldn't be about cruelty or hatred. This was about justice, about protecting my marriage from a toxic person who thrived on causing pain. I whispered to the empty room, "If she loves stealing gifts, she'll regret the next one." The next day, I drove to 3 different stores building my trap. First, an antique shop where I found a beautiful mahogany jewelry box with a false bottom. The craftsmanship was exquisite, the kind of thing that would catch any thief's attention. At the electronics store, I purchased the smallest camera I could find. The device was barely larger than a button, designed for home security. I also bought a GPS tracker, the kind used to find lost phones. My final stop was a costume jewelry store. I bought the most convincing fake diamonds and pearls I could afford. From a distance, they looked worth thousands. Up close, they would crumble at the slightest touch. Back home, I carefully assembled my revenge box. The fake jewelry went in the main compartment, while the real compartment below held the tracker and camera. I programmed everything to activate when the box was moved. That evening, I placed the box prominently on my dresser. I made sure Delia would see it during her usual snooping rounds. She couldn't resist checking our bedroom when Kendra was busy, claiming she was just tidying up. As I prepared for bed, I noticed a shadow pause outside our bedroom door. Delia's silhouette lingered in the hallway, and I knew she had spotted the bait. The trap was set. The next morning, I checked my phone and found exactly what I expected. The camera had activated at 2:17 a.m., recording Delia creeping into our bedroom like a common burglar. She moved slowly, carefully, her face illuminated by moonlight streaming through the window. I watched her discover the jewelry box and examine it with greedy fingers. Her eyes widened when she opened it and saw the fake diamond sparkling inside. Without hesitation, she tucked the box under her robe and crept back to her room. My heart pounded as I watched the footage. Finally, I had proof of her true nature. The GPS tracker showed the box's current location, Delia's bedroom closet, probably locked away with her other stolen treasures. But I couldn't confront her yet. Kendra would demand more evidence, and Delia would find some way to explain away a single theft. I needed to be patient, to let Delia dig her own grave deeper. The hardest part was acting normal at breakfast. Delia sat across from me, buttering her toast with the same hands that had stolen from me hours earlier. She chatted pleasantly with Kendra about weekend plans, playing the perfect mother. "Good morning, Patrick," she said sweetly. "You look tired. Trouble sleeping?" I forced a smile. "Just excited about some projects I'm working on." Delia's smile faltered slightly, but she recovered quickly. She had no idea that her every move was being documented. 3 days later, Kendra mentioned wanting to treat her mother to lunch for being so helpful around the house. I suggested they make it special by exchanging gifts, knowing Delia couldn't resist the opportunity to steal credit again. I watched from the kitchen as Delia disappeared into her room and returned with my jewelry box, now wrapped in fresh paper. She presented it to Kendra with theatrical flair. "I saw this and thought of you immediately," Delia gushed. "A beautiful box for a beautiful daughter." Kendra opened the gift carefully, her face bright with anticipation. But when she lifted the fake jewelry, it crumbled between her fingers like sand. The cheap plastic dissolved, leaving powdery residue on her palms. Kendra's smile froze. She looked at the disintegrating jewelry, then at her mother's shocked face. "Mom, what is this?" Delia's composure cracked. She stared at the ruined gift, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. I don't understand. This was supposed to be. Supposed to be what?" Kendra asked, confusion replacing excitement. Delia's eyes darted around the room, searching for an explanation. But there was no way to explain why she had given her daughter jewelry that fell apart at first touch. The first crack appeared in Delia's perfect facade, and I savored every second of her panic. Delia recovered quickly, her survival instincts kicking in. She turned to me with accusatory eyes, her voice rising with false indignation. "This is your doing, isn't it, Patrick? You switched the jewelry somehow. You're trying to make me look bad in front of my daughter." Kendra looked between us, torn and confused. "What's going on? Someone please explain what's happening." "Your husband is playing games," Delia continued, her voice gaining strength. "He's trying to frame me for something. This is all part of his plan to turn you against me." I remained calm, even though every instinct screamed at me to defend myself. Instead, I pulled out my phone and opened the video file I had prepared. "Kendra," I said quietly, "there's something you need to see." The footage began playing. Delia sneaking into our bedroom in the dead of night, stealing the jewelry box from my dresser. Kendra watched in stunned silence as her mother crept around like a common thief. Delia's face went white. That's not what it looks like." "Then what is it?" Kendra asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Delia scrambled for explanations. "I was protecting it. I thought someone might steal it. I was going to surprise you." But the lies sounded hollow now, even to her own ears. Kendra had seen the truth with her own eyes. Kendra stared at the phone screen long after the video ended. Her mother's midnight theft played on repeat in her mind, shattering years of trust and manipulation. "You stole from my husband," Kendra said slowly, the words heavy with betrayal. "You stole our anniversary gift and gave it to me as your own." Delia's desperation exploded into rage. "How dare you take his side over mine? I'm your mother. I've sacrificed everything for you, and this is how you repay me? By being honest?" Kendra shot back, her voice growing stronger. "By expecting you not to steal from us?" Delia pointed a shaking finger at me. "He's manipulating you. He planned this whole thing to make me look bad. He's the one destroying our family." I reached into my jacket and pulled out a second phone, one Delia hadn't noticed. "Actually, there are more cameras." Delia's tirade stopped mid-sentence. The color drained from her face as she realized the scope of what I had documented. "How many?" she whispered. "Enough," I replied simply. Kendra looked at me with new respect, finally understanding that her husband had been systematically documenting her mother's crimes. The woman she had defended was nothing more than a common thief who had been stealing from her own family. Over the next week, I began my campaign carefully. During casual conversations with neighbors, I mentioned small concerns about items going missing around the house. I never directly accused Delia, just planted seeds of doubt. "It's the strangest thing," I told our neighbor Sue while getting the mail. "Gift cards keep disappearing. Kendra's jewelry has gone missing. Must be getting forgetful in our old age." Sue nodded sympathetically, but I saw the wheels turning in his head. Everyone knew Delia had moved in recently. The timing was suspicious. At the grocery store, I ran into Mrs. Goss from down the street. "How's the new living situation working out?" she asked. "It's an adjustment," I replied carefully. "Kendra's mother is particular about nice things. Really notices valuable items, if you know what I mean." Word spread quickly in our small neighborhood. Delia's reputation began shifting from devoted mother to questionable houseguest. People started watching her more carefully when she visited, subtly protecting their valuables. The whispers reached Delia's ears during her morning walk. I watched from our kitchen window as she paused near the Johnsons' fence, clearly hearing her name mentioned in hushed tones. Her perfect social mask was beginning to crack, and she knew it. Delia's paranoia grew stronger each day. She began making frequent trips to the basement, always carrying a small bag or box. Her behavior became secretive and erratic. I followed her one evening, creeping down the basement stairs after she thought everyone was asleep. Through the crack in the door, I watched her kneel beside an old filing cabinet in the corner. She opened what appeared to be a hidden safe behind some loose drywall panels. My heart raced as I caught glimpses of the contents: jewelry, cash, small electronics, and other items that definitely didn't belong to her. The woman was a serial thief. After she left, I examined the hiding spot more carefully. The safe was professionally installed, probably costing more than Delia could afford on her limited income. This wasn't recent behavior, she had been planning this theft operation for a long time. I took photos of the safe's location and made mental notes of the combination she had used. Delia thought she was being clever, but she had no idea that her every move was being documented. The basement became her sanctuary, but it would soon become her prison. 3 nights later, I made my move. While Delia slept and Kendra worked her night shift at the hospital, I crept down to the basement with my camera and lockpicking tools. Opening the safe took longer than expected, but my engineering background helped. Inside, I found a treasure trove of stolen goods that made my stomach turn. Wedding rings, family heirlooms, cash bundles, gift cards, and expensive electronics filled every shelf. Some items I recognized from neighbors' houses. Others belonged to Kendra and me, things I had thought were lost or misplaced over the months. Delia had been systematically stealing from everyone around her. I photographed everything methodically, documenting each item's position and condition. The evidence was overwhelming. This wasn't occasional theft, this was a criminal enterprise. Among the stolen goods, I found the original jewelry box I had hidden for our anniversary. The real diamond earring sparkled inside, untouched and perfect. Delia had stolen them but never gave them to Kendra, keeping them for herself instead. My hands shook with anger as I realized the depth of her betrayal. She hadn't just stolen our anniversary, she had stolen our trust, our peace of mind, and our family harmony. But now I had everything I needed to destroy her. I needed one final piece of evidence to guarantee Delia's downfall. Using my computer skills, I created a fake legal document. A will that appeared to be Kendra's, supposedly leaving everything to Delia instead of me. I planted the forged will inside Delia's safe, making it look like she had stolen it and was planning to use it somehow. The document was obviously fake to any legal expert, but Delia wouldn't know that. 2 days later, I watched through hidden cameras as Delia discovered the will during one of her secret basement visits. Her face went through a range of emotions: shock, greed, panic, and finally terror. She stared at the document for several minutes, probably wondering how it had appeared in her safe. Was someone else accessing her hiding spot? Had she accidentally stolen something that could destroy her completely? Delia carefully hid the will behind other items, but I could see her mind racing. She knew possession of such a document would be impossible to explain if discovered. The psychological pressure was building perfectly. Delia was beginning to crack under the weight of her own crimes, and the fake will was the final straw that would push her over the edge. I suggested a family meeting that weekend, framing it as a chance to discuss household responsibilities and improve communication. Kendra agreed enthusiastically, hoping to resolve the growing tension between her mother and me. We gathered in the living room after dinner. I had carefully prepared my approach, knowing that direct confrontation would let Delia wiggle out of responsibility. Instead, I steered the conversation toward trust and honesty. "I've been thinking about what makes families strong," I began. "Trust is everything, isn't it? When family members can't trust each other, everything falls apart." Kendra nodded eagerly. "Exactly. We need to be honest with each other." Delia shifted uncomfortably in her chair. "Of course we trust each other. We're family. But what happens when someone in the family starts taking things that don't belong to them?" I asked innocently. "Hypothetically speaking." Delia's face went pale. "What are you suggesting?" "Nothing specific. Just wondering how we'd handle a situation like that." Kendra looked confused by the sudden tension in the room. "Why would we need to handle that? Nobody here would steal from family." I maintained eye contact with Delia as I spoke. "Of course not. But if someone did, we'd need proof before making accusations. Documentation. Evidence that couldn't be denied." Delia's hands trembled slightly as she reached for her water glass. The pressure became too much for Delia. LD collapsed in that moment. Panic overwhelmed her judgment, and the truth came spilling out before she could stop herself. "I never meant for you to see that. It was just in case something happened to you, to make sure I could take care of everything properly. I only took the anniversary gift because Patrick doesn't appreciate you enough." The words hung in the air like poison. Kendra stared at her mother in complete shock, finally hearing the confession she had refused to believe before. You actually did steal from us?" Delia tried to backtrack, but the damage was done. "I was protecting you. Patrick doesn't deserve you, and I wanted to show you how much I care." I quietly activated the voice recorder on my phone, capturing every word of Delia's breakdown. Her own guilt and paranoia had driven her to confess everything in front of witnesses. Kendra's trust in her mother shattered completely as the full scope of the betrayal became clear. Delia's confession video went viral in our community within hours. I had edited it carefully, showing only her admission of theft without revealing the more personal family details. Local social media groups shared the video with captions like, "Local woman admits to stealing from family," and "Mother-in-law caught on camera confessing to theft." The story spread like wildfire because everyone loves watching manipulative people get exposed. Delia's phone rang constantly with angry calls from neighbors and former friends. People who had trusted her, invited her to their homes, and treated her with respect now realized they had been harboring a criminal. "You destroyed my reputation," Delia screamed at me after seeing the online response. "How could you humiliate me like this?" "I didn't humiliate you," I replied calmly. "I just recorded your own words and let people hear the truth." The video had over 10,000 views within 2 days. Comments poured in from people sharing their own stories of theft and manipulation by trusted family members. Delia had become a cautionary tale about the dangers of blind trust. Her social standing in the community was completely destroyed, and she knew it. Delia's counterattack came through a lawyer's letter the following week. She was suing me for defamation, invasion of privacy, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The letter threatened to destroy my career and reputation if I didn't remove all videos and issue a public apology. "You think you're so clever," Delia hissed when she served me the papers. "But I'm going to take everything from you. Your job, your money, your wife. You'll regret the day you decided to mess with me." I read the legal document carefully, noting the weak arguments and empty threats. Delia's lawyer was clearly second-rate, probably the only one willing to take such a hopeless case. Kendra watched our confrontation with growing disgust. "Mom, how can you still be attacking Patrick after everything you've done? Because he's the real criminal here," Delia shouted. "He invaded my privacy. He manipulated all of us." I looked up from the lawsuit papers and smiled calmly. "Then let's bring all the evidence to court. I think a judge would be very interested in seeing what was in your basement safe." Delia's face went white as she realized her legal threat could backfire spectacularly. The courtroom was packed with neighbors and community members who had followed our story online. Delia sat with her lawyer, trying to maintain dignity while surrounded by evidence of her crimes. I presented my case methodically. Security footage of Delia stealing from our bedroom. Photos of the stolen goods in her basement safe. Audio recordings of her confessions. Documentation of her elaborate theft operation spanning several months. Delia's lawyer tried to argue that recording someone without consent was illegal, but the judge pointed out that homeowners have the right to record criminal activity on their own property. "Your client was caught red-handed stealing from her own family," the judge said sternly. "The recordings simply document criminal behavior that was already occurring." Delia took the stand in her own defense, but her testimony fell apart under cross-examination. She couldn't explain the stolen goods, couldn't justify her midnight thefts, and couldn't convince anyone that she was the victim. The courtroom gasped when I presented the full inventory of stolen items. Jewelry worth thousands of dollars, cash bundles totaling over $5,000, and personal items stolen from at least 6 different households. The judge's expression grew more severe with each revelation. The judge's verdict was swift and decisive. Delia was ordered to pay full restitution for all stolen items, plus additional damages for emotional distress. She also had to issue a public apology and complete community service. "Mrs. Delia Walsh," the judge said sternly, "your behavior represents a betrayal of the most fundamental family bonds. You violated the trust of people who loved and cared for you." Delia sobbed as the gavel fell, but her tears looked fake after everything she had put us through. The courtroom erupted in quiet applause from neighbors who had been victimized by her theft ring. Outside the courthouse, local news reporters captured Delia's humiliation for the evening broadcast. Her reputation was destroyed beyond repair, and everyone in town knew exactly what kind of person she really was. But as I watched Delia stumble toward her car, defeated and broken, I realized my revenge wasn't complete yet. She needed to understand the full scope of damage she had caused, not just to our family, but to herself. I had one final gift to give her. That evening, I delivered one last box to Delia's temporary motel room. Unlike my previous revenge box, this one contained something more valuable than evidence or tricks: the truth. Inside was a handwritten letter explaining every moment of her cruelty and the pain she had caused our family. I detailed how her theft had nearly destroyed my marriage, how her manipulation had poisoned Kendra's trust in everyone around her. "You stole more than jewelry and money," I wrote. "You stole our peace, our happiness, and our faith in family bonds. You taught us that we couldn't trust the people we loved most." I explained how her actions had forced me to become someone I never wanted to be: suspicious, calculating, and vengeful. Her toxicity had infected our entire household, making everyone paranoid and defensive. The letter concluded with a simple message: you have lost everything because you valued things more than people. Your greed cost you the only family who still loved you despite your flaws. I left the box at her door and walked away, knowing she would read every word and finally understand the true cost of her choices. Delia's breakdown came 2 days later. Kendra found her mother sitting in the motel parking lot, sobbing uncontrollably while clutching my letter. The woman who had seemed so strong and manipulative was now just a broken person facing the consequences of her actions. I never meant for it to go this far, Delia whispered through her tears. I just wanted to feel important, to feel needed. I thought if I could give you better gifts, you would love me more. Kendra knelt beside her mother's car, torn between anger and pity. Mom, we already loved you. You didn't need to steal from us to earn our affection. But Patrick was taking you away from me, Delia continued. I could see you choosing him over me, and I panicked. I thought if I made him look bad, you would need me more. The truth finally emerged. Delia's theft wasn't about greed, but about fear. Fear of losing her daughter, fear of being forgotten, fear of growing old alone. Her crimes were symptoms of deeper insecurities that had festered for years. But understanding her motivations didn't excuse her actions. Kendra realized that her mother's love had been conditional and manipulative from the beginning. Kendra and I began rebuilding our marriage slowly, like gardeners replanting a damaged flower bed. The process required patience, forgiveness, and honest communication about everything Delia had poisoned between us. I'm sorry I didn't believe you sooner, Kendra said during one of our long talks. She was my mother, and I couldn't imagine her being capable of something so cruel. I held my wife's hands and looked into her eyes. Delia exploited your love for her. That's not your fault, that's what manipulative people do. They use our best qualities against us. We talked about the anniversary night when everything started, how Delia had stolen not just a gift but a moment of connection between us. I finally gave Kendra the real diamond earrings I had bought, and she wore them with tears in her eyes. These mean more now than they would have then, she said. Because now I understand how much you sacrificed to buy them, and how much you went through to get them back. Our marriage grew stronger because we had survived the worst kind of betrayal together. We learned to trust each other completely while maintaining healthy boundaries with toxic family members. The experience taught us that family isn't just about blood relations, it's about people who genuinely care for your well-being. Delia attempted reconciliation several times over the following months, but Kendra maintained firm boundaries. She refused to see her mother until Delia proved genuine change through actions, not just words. I want to make things right, Delia pleaded during phone calls. I'll pay back every penny. I'll go to therapy. I'll do whatever it takes. But Kendra had learned to recognize manipulation, even when it came wrapped in apologies and promises. Mom, you've had months to make things right. Instead, you sued us and tried to destroy Patrick's reputation. That's not someone who's truly sorry. Delia was left alone in her motel room, surrounded by the bitter fruits of her own schemes. Her theft ring had been exposed, her reputation destroyed, her family alienated. She had traded everything meaningful for temporary material gains. The local newspapers occasionally reported on her struggle to find housing and employment. No one wanted to rent to a known thief, and no employer would hire someone with her criminal record. Sometimes I felt sorry for her, but then I remembered the pain she had caused and the lies she had told. Some consequences can't be undone, no matter how sorry the perpetrator becomes. Delia whispered to her empty room, I never thought I'd lose everything. Looking back, I realized the revenge box had become more than just a trap for a thief. It became a symbol of justice, proof that truth eventually surfaces no matter how deeply it's buried. The box taught me that revenge isn't about cruelty or hatred, it's about refusing to be victimized silently. Sometimes the only way to stop a manipulative person is to expose them completely, letting their own actions speak louder than any accusation. Delia's downfall wasn't caused by my cameras or tricks. It was caused by her own choices, her own greed, her own willingness to hurt the people who loved her. I simply provided the light that revealed what was already there. The viral video of her confession remains online, serving as a permanent reminder that actions have consequences. People still share it as an example of how manipulation eventually backfires on manipulators. Kendra and I kept the revenge box as a reminder of what we survived together. Sometimes we open it and remember how close we came to losing everything because of one person's toxicity. Our marriage is stronger now because we learned to recognize manipulation and protect ourselves from it. We understand that love requires trust, and trust requires honesty, qualities Delia never truly possessed. The revenge box's greatest lesson wasn't about punishment, but about reclaiming dignity and refusing to let toxic people control our lives.